So after spending about a year or so growing this bluebell out, I decided it was time to style it for shohin. So I begin basically by removing some of the unwanted branches. In this instance, we're probably going to be going for a semi-cascade. So I'm basically just removing branches until we get back to an interesting trunk line. So here we see the tree is cleaned out, just pulling the last remaining amount of leaves and make one more chop to the top. So after this chop to the top, our trunk line is well established. We'll go ahead and paste the wounds and then go ahead and get rid of some of the weeds and kind of clean up the tree a little bit. A big part of bonsai is paying respect to the material. So having weeds in the pot just is unsightly and doesn't really show that we're caring for the tree to the best of our abilities. So one of the easiest methods of weeding a container is to use a pair of bonsai tweezers and really dig in and get the root out of there. When we repot the tree, it'll just be nice to not have any of those residual roots in the soil. So next we'll strip the tree of its leaves. I really am careful of when I choose to do this. I basically do it for initial stylings and things where it'll be a lot easier for me to get wire on the tree. I'm not a big fan of full defoliation for building ramification, but for, like I said, for getting wire on the tree initially, starting to build a structure, makes our life a lot easier to get rid of the leaves on species where we can. So once we have the leaves stripped, we'll go ahead and start applying wire. Wire is always applied branch to branch, meaning that I'm always wiring two branches together. I'm never just attaching the wire to a part of the trunk and then wiring out to the branch. I'm also never crossing the wires, or at least I should say, I don't usually cross the wires. It leads to kind of a jumbled mess initially. The only time that that's really acceptable is when you're really detail wiring conifers, or you have a project where there's just so many wires on the tree that crossing is really the only option. It's only done with fine wire, and definitely not during structural bends, things like that. So here I'm just going to continue to wire out the tree until we get every branch that we've left on the tree covered with wire. So here I'm using 1.5 millimeter wire, aluminum, and I choose that wire. Basically, I usually try to go half the diameter of the branch that I'm wiring at least. For development work, I'll actually go much heavier, all the way up to equivalent to the diameter of the branch I'm wiring. So essentially, if I'm wiring a 1/4 inch thick branch, then the wire I'll be applying will be about 1/4 inch thick. This is important as if we wire too light on development work, the wire will cut in before the bend or the branch has reached the necessary length and diameter, and we'll have to remove the wire before it's done its job, and usually the branch will kind of sag and flop back down. So if we wire with thicker wire, we can leave it on longer and allow the branch to elongate, thus kind of setting that bend and not having to repeat the same work over and over. So I also make sure that I have a majority of the wire on the tree before I start making bends. It just makes our life a lot easier, as it's easier to wire onto a straight line than it is to wire around bends and curves and things like that. The other thing is that you're going to be moving your hands in and out of the design. So if you position things, it's just going to get bumped out of position. So it's better to kind of just get the wire on, wait till you get everything wired, and then go ahead and finish by positioning everything. So now that we have all the branches wired, we'll go ahead and start to position our tree. Making a semi-cascade, we're going to have to use one of the branches as a descending cascading branch and use the others to kind of create levels, building up several pads. So for the first one, I'm descending that branch down, and I'm going to basically spread the secondaries and tertiaries out to create a fan-like structure. I'll make as many of these fan-like structures as I can and level them out into separate pads as I work my way up the tree. So last thing is I'm going to compress this top to kind of match the character of the trunk and really add a lot of bend to it. Once I finish that, I'm going to trim the ends, make sure that the length on all the branches is correct. Even if I've wired something, it's okay to trim it off because we want to bring out the best design possible. So now that we're happy with our design, it's time to go ahead and repot the tree. So finally the tree was potted into a pink koyo I had, and that completes our repotting and styling of our bluebell shohin. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time.